Paul Richer. I run a management consultancy called Genesis, and I'm your host for this seminar. And just to give you a little background, Genesis advises on technology in the travel industry. You can read all about it in the little brochure on your seat. Great to see you all here, and those of you who were with me last year, you'll know we've doubled the size of the room, and it's still standing room only, so obviously search engines do concern you a little bit. We're going to hear 3 great presentations from a search engine expert, Sticky Eyes, from Google and from Yahoo. After they've made the presentations, I'll invite the speakers to sit down there and we'll ask them the questions that we always wanted to ask them. There'll be a microphone running up and down, so if you think of a question, please keep it in mind so that you can ask it when the time comes. Just to let you know, so you don't want to take copious notes, if you want to have copies of the presentations after the event, let me have your business card, and then I'll drop you an email when they're available online. The only one that I think I'm not able to provide you is, oh, I think we're okay. John, are we okay? So to put your presentation online, we are, yes. All 3 presentations will be available online after the event, so that's fine. So you just let me have your business card afterwards, and I'll email you when they're available. Let me just swap some PCs around here, and then I'll introduce our first speaker. It's okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sales Director from Sticky Eyes, Search Engines Experts, Paul Hill. Let's welcome him, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you to Paul and Genesis for the opportunity to sponsor today's session. I just want to introduce my co-speaker, Ariane Donoghue, who's our Head of Paid Search Advertising at Sticky Eyes. Ariane's worked in the travel sector for over 7 years and was previously in-house search manager for Thomas Cook, sorry. Fantastic. Okay, so just very quickly, a little bit about Sticky Eyes and why we're qualified to address this audience today. As a business, we've been around for 13 years and have grown from being really a boutique search agency specialising in SEO and PPC, whereas now as a business, we're really involved in helping our clients, our client brands, engage through the whole customer life cycle through pre-commerce initiatives, through social media, through engagement exercises, through content, into acquisition strategies and retargeting and reactivation, peer-to-peer networking, again through social media. So the theme of the world travel market is very much social biased as an event. But what we'd like to talk about today is the way social is influencing search and search performance.
Yeah. So what we wanted to talk to you today was how social can benefit you in your wider marketing strategy and why we think it's time as marketers for us to start to go back to basics. So marketing over recent years has become very complicated. There's lots to think about. If we take a look at what the current customer ecosystem, as we call it, looks like, there's lots of channels, there's lots of places you can interact with customers. It's a much more complex place than it was 1, 2, 3 years ago. It's very, very different now. And as marketers, it can be hard to know, where do you start looking? Where are you going to more easily reach your customers? What's going to be most effective? What's the best use of your budget? So as a result, we've decided that as part of this session, and part of the wider piece, we're going to take a look at social, because that's going to help you build solid foundations with your customers. It's going to let you establish effective ways to communicate with them. Social, as we all know, as a medium, is very, very two-way. It's easy to talk to and listen to customers. And if you get it right, there'll be a healthy impact seen on your bottom line at the end of the day. So social, we feel, it's the glue that sticks everything together. And why is that? You know, if we take a look at social, it's present everywhere. You've got forums, you've got wikis, you've got video, you've got music, you've got social networks. Social is present in every part of our lives day to day now, which makes it a really good way to try and reach as many people as possible. And social is one of the only things that lets us attract customers, engage with them, and then use the power and the voice of those customers to amplify our brands to new people. The other great thing about social is it's present at all 4 stages of what we call the buying cycle. So if a user's researching, they can get advice from their friends on where to go. When they're buying, they can use it to look for information, or you can use things like F-commerce or Twitter deals or Facebook deals to try and get people to buy from you. Retention, it's a great way to keep customers with you by providing good customer service, keeping them attached to your brand. And then in terms of advocacy and referral, we all know that social is a great way to do that because you can tell friends about experiences, you can share good things, you can share potentially bad things. But it's a great way to build that relationships and get your customers to start talking about your brand and referring customers to you. How do we prove it? How do we measure the value of social to you as a business? Well, there's a number of different ways. There's direct ways, you can measure it, the impact on sales and your bottom line. Indirect ways, through the use of things like attribution software, seeing what part social plays in your overall booking journey. And often we see an uplift on search behaviour. So users who've been exposed to social media often see improvements in things like their click-through rates and the overall engagement that people have with their SEO and their PPC. There's other indirect ways as well, things like customer service and R&D. Often people choose to use that as a method of servicing customer queries instead of using call centres, and find it to be a really, really good method to improve customer satisfaction and get them coming back time after time. So what social lets you do is it gives brands an ears as well as a voice. So it's all very well to be able to talk to your customers and give them options, give them information, but as we know, key to any relationship is the ability to listen. But allied to that, brands also need to make sure that they've established their own unique identity, and we're going to come on to the reasons why that's important.
Okay. So where we see this played out in the real world, there's been the announcement in the last few days from Telefix Holidays to reduce their advertisers from 50 down to potentially as many or as low as 15 advertisers moving forward. And who's that going to affect? A lot of the people that have been excluded from that channel are being niche providers of long-haul flights or specialists of key destinations, say Northern Cyprus holidays, that experience. So it's making brands not be reliant on any one channel and be the masters of their own destiny, which is critical. If you're going to specialise in a given service or a given location, you need to own that space and you need to be active. So an example of where we've helped one brand was work we did for the Ski Horizon Group across the UK, French and Dutch market. We produced a destination guide but also integrated some of the key social channels. So there was a Facebook and Twitter API. But the site was built very much around the user intent. So content was themed around group holidays, luxury chalet holidays, family resorts with content themed around that, with links through to the specific or key properties to actually have a call to action and hopefully increase an actual sale. So what was really a social exercise and a content exercise had a dramatic impact on the bottom line. So as an offering, as a project, actually increased the ROI from this activity by 680% return investment, with the revenue per visitor from Facebook at £9.
So a key question that we all need to ask ourselves is, are we using the ears and the voices that social gives us? It's all very well having access to Facebook and to Twitter feeds and all this amazing stuff that technology gives us day to day, but are we using it in the best way possible? Do you know what your customers are saying to you right now? Do you know what they're saying about you, more importantly? And are you talking back? Is this communication, is it a two-way relationship, or is it just one way where your customers are trying to reach out to you, they're trying to get in touch, and you're not engaging with them, you're not saying anything back? It's a really good question to ask yourselves and figure out what your strategy is for social.
So we'll just have a quick look at some good, bad and ugly examples of how brands have engaged in these channels.
Yeah. So the first example we wanted to give is a good with Virgin Australia. So a lot of you in the room are probably going to be aware of the good work that Virgin Australia has done recently while Qantas have had some of their planes grounded and while they've been suffering with some of the troubles that they've been having. So as soon as the announcement came out from Qantas, Virgin were very on the ball. They came out on Twitter, on Facebook and offered help. We're going to be giving you help, we're going to be giving you information, we'll put on additional services, we will be there for you. You didn't fly out with us, but we're there for you. So already they're giving information for affected passengers. They put up a specialist page on their website, made other information available on Facebook, and then they've given a 20% discount for stranded passengers. So straight away they're saying, we will help you get home. We will give you 20% off your ticket, so you don't need to worry about whether you'll get the extra refunded by Qantas. Fly with us and we'll get you to where you need to be. And then we're putting on 3,000 extra seats. So we know there's a lot of you trying to get home. We're going to make it so that you don't have to wait. We're going to make it as easy as we can for you to get to where you want to go. And then it turned out that over 20,000 people by the Sunday night had booked flights home with Virgin, which is quite a mean feat given the timescales that we're talking about and the fact that previously these people may not even have considered using Virgin as an airline. And to add insult to injury, Virgin are quite cheekily tweeting shots of their planes taking off in the air, pictures shared by passengers, while Qantas planes are grounded on the runways. You've got Virgin planes taking off full of happy customers being returned home to their native lands. So Virgin were quick, very quick off the mark, as we'll see in a few pushes' time. They were there within 30 minutes of the initial announcement from Qantas that planes were grounded. They were very visible, whereas a lot of people have criticised Qantas for not being there, for not providing enough information. It was very easy for customers who wanted to use Virgin to see where they could get information and what they needed to do. And they were helpful, above all. In a time like that, what you need is help. It won Virgin a lot of goodwill. Richard Branson and his PR team are certainly very savvy, and it earned them a massive amount of trust, which is something that you can't buy, it has to be earned. But they certainly managed to do that in this case.
So people talk around measuring the impact or measuring ROI from social media. There's 20,000 sales. It's a fantastic piece of guerrilla marketing or guerrilla social media marketing.
Absolutely. And what we'll see when we compare it to Qantas is a very different approach, whereas Virgin's approach was very personable, it was very interactive, it was very much focused on providing information. As we'll see from Qantas, after leaving passengers stranded, they were getting 1,000 tweets a minute on Saturday night and nobody was responding, nobody was saying anything to these customers who had queries or wanted to know how they were going to get home. The response was very mechanical. There was no real kind of feeling. They didn't even apologise in the initial instance, which we'll see. And there was very little news of how they were actually going to help these customers who needed a way to get home. So this was the first update from Qantas. So from 8 p.m, all planes are going to be grounded. There's no apology there. There's no information on what to do, how to get home. There's nothing. Second update contains an apology. It says we hope to have a resolution, but again, there's no information. It's a don't go to the airport. Well, that's great, but I want to get home. What am I going to do? And the following three updates were very short, very curt, very little information. And you can see from the link to the webpage on the top one, it actually refers to the volcanic ash cloud. So they haven't even properly updated the content on their website that customers are going to be looking for to find information on how they're going to get home. But, there's always a but.
If you're famous and you've left your wallet on the plane...
Some of you may have seen this on Friday on Twitter.
And you happen to have 3.5 million Twitter followers, then you'll be well looked after.
So it begs the question, Qantas are clearly doing an okay job in checking their Twitter feeds, seeing when people are responding to them, but being very selective about who they reply to and who they help, and it doesn't send the best image. As this guy at the bottom has quite rightly said, well, they'll help Stephen Fry, but what about everybody else? And then the ugly.
Yeah. Now, this is quite measured. Ryanair have officially stated they're not going to engage with social channels, but if Sticky Eyes as a business had made €460 million profit in the last quarter, I wouldn't be too worried about my social media presence, with respect.
I mean, in fairness, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing that Ryanair don't have a social presence. Clearly it's not harming their business, and them engaging with their customers isn't perhaps the way that they want to pursue. If they did, they probably wouldn't be considering charging for toilets and leaving with only one lid on the plane and all the other silly ideas they come up with. But yeah, that's just an example of someone who, well, doesn't even do it very badly. They don't bother at all. But it varies, different things work for different businesses. As Paul said, clearly it's not harming them in terms of revenue. So what next? You need to make sure that you're building the foundations for your brand. So if you want to be talking to your customers socially and using that channel as effectively as possible, make sure that you're building ways to listen to them, that you've got those channels there and available to you to use. And what are your customers telling you? What do your customers want? Those above all things, you need to make sure that you're providing. If your customers are saying that they want something from your business or they need something from you, make sure that you're providing that to them. They're already taking the time and the effort to engage with you and tell you these things, and it's the least that we can do as businesses to listen and make sure that we're providing that.
What we've seen as a search specialist is the number of social indicators now being fed into, especially recent Google algorithm updates. So these are quality indicators about who should be ranking over another brand. So in terms of optimization strategies, it's key that you're engaging with your customers, people sharing information, sharing content. That content's being seeded to relevant areas. And as an overall marketing message, it's, think humans, optimize your website for your customers, and the robots will follow. Just to quickly finish off, if you'd like to leave your business cards at the end, we're offering a free digital consultancy to a handful of randomly picked winners at the end.
There's a little vase bowl thing at the back, so if you just want to leave cards in there on the way out, that'd be great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul Ariane, for a great start. I'm just going to switch machines here, and then I'll introduce our next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nate Buchholz, Head of Travel from Google. Thank you.
Is this on? Yeah. Head of Travel, lest I get in trouble with my boss, who's actually the head of travel. But thank you so much. It's nice to see such interest in the search engine update. I'm Nate Buchholz with the Google UK travel team here in London. And today I'll talk to you a bit about some trends that we're seeing, kind of three basic areas, the areas that we're really focusing on at Google in general, and then of course specifically in travel. And at this point I was going to say that I have lots of graphs and data on charts, but I noticed the coolest presentations just have a big high-resolution picture, people with very white teeth enjoying technology. But now the coolest presentation might be the sticky eyes, because I'm stuck on PowerPoint. But I got the high-resolution pictures, no people with white teeth, but I thought I'd put a few up there. I have nothing to say about this slide, except it should get you excited about technology in general. Or this one, it could be a media discussion, it could be about phone hacking or something like that. And this one, I like the picture, and I actually have something to say. It's the Android guy shouting at the globe. So Android recently surpassed iPhone as having the most app downloads globally with 44% market share. So we're very excited about Android and mobile in general, and that's a whole section of this that I'll talk about, and I'll explain to you why. That's the serious bit. So on to the serious bit, the know your numbers. So we had a study late last year with Nielsen, which looked at the online path to purchase of UK customers. And I think I shared a bit about this last year, actually, and I won't spend too much time on it, but it's really important when you think about your attribution and how you get scientific about giving credit where credit is due to different sorts of ad formats or non-paid channels as well. And then the mobile bit, talk about why Google considers itself a mobile-first company, meaning we try to think mobile at the center of any product strategy or any new effort that we're going into. And I'll explain to you why we think that's so important. And then a couple of product updates. So last year I had a lot of questions about what would happen with ITA once the companies came together, and I was very tight-lipped. I had nothing to say. Now I actually have something to say, so that's kind of an interesting bit, and I'll touch on Hotel Finder as well. So jumping right into the numbers part. So there are a few things that we've found. One, of the 29 million people in the UK travel market, 77% of those people are going to use search at some point in their path to purchase and to research. So happy to see that search engines are very much a central part. But some other stats really stood out to us. On average, the researchers are visiting 15 sites. They're doing this twice for each site in general, spending up to 50 days during this whole process. And if they actually book, a lot of these numbers double. So 26 sites over 60 days, spending almost 5 hours. The point of all this is to say, if you're looking at something like last click attribution for your advertising, that's not the correct way to go. There's influence at the whole stage. You can think of it as a funnel where it gets fairly general down to very specific. But the point is you need to be really scientific with your analytics and start with search, if nothing else, where you find that some terms really influence the end purchase behavior, but then also with your display and with your SEO to really understand how the whole picture fits together so you know how to allocate your budget. A bit more on this, just to drive the point home. 16% will purchase within 24 hours, but it takes up to a good 30, 40 days before the majority of people have made their booking. So again, the last click attribution doesn't really make sense. But we also found that on average, it looks like it didn't get cut off up here, 2.8 people, or I should say people made an average of 2.8 transactions. So somebody may have already booked with you, but if you have another product, think about things like remarketing or going after that customer with a different message now that they've booked. Obviously, ancillary products is huge with the airlines, and if you get smart about, right, they've made the ticket purchase, they're going somewhere warm, thinking of maybe a retail perspective. Now they need a travel guide. Now they need sunblock. I don't know. We also see that people are 1.5 times more likely to make a purchase if they clicked on that paid link. So search advertising does work, and people are obviously demonstrating some intent when they do click on that link generally. Onto the mobile portion, we're finding a lot of interesting things. One, and this is a new stat from like the last month or so, full 45% of internet access in the UK came via a mobile device, which I find to be an amazing statistic. That's 17.6 million people online via mobile device. We also found that household ownership of smartphones is now 41% in the UK, and it was just 36% in April. So the growth is rapid. What this also means is people aren't just checking out the weather on a WAP phone. They're using full HTML browsers. They're going to be transacting. It's amazing how behind many companies are with thinking about having a mobile site and this sort of thing. You need to do it. The time is now. And this is a bit about how the desktop and the mobile device complement each other. So the graph on the left shows within a 24-hour period of when the usage peaks. So on the desktop, you'll find that it peaks quite early when people get to work, and then it tapers off into the evening. And the mobile phone usage just climbs until, I guess everybody checks that last email at like 11 p.m., which is a bit sad, but it's something to think about as a professional. On the right, what you see is the weekly view. So the mobile usage is quite steady, but at the same time, it really peaks on the weekend, and that's when the desktop usage, when you're away from the office, falls off. So there's kind of another look, not just this is how people access the internet, but if you really want to connect with them with a certain time or a certain message or in a certain mindset, there might be a different way of messaging things or of influencing via the mobile device. And the other thing is how people kind of segment themselves when they do book via the mobile device. So EasyJet found that a good 38% of the bookings they got via a mobile device were for departures within 10 days, as opposed to just 13% via the desktop. So you could think of that as a way to move distressed inventory, or you could assume that they're business travelers, et cetera, but it's a way of the customers are self-segmenting. And then there's also sort of not a recency issue with mobile, but also locality. So eBookers found, and I had to double check the stat because it seems huge, but 70% of the bookings they got, at least for this case study, were with same-day check-in for their hotels. And they found that a lot of those people that were booking were within a couple of miles of that hotel. So again, you might think of distressed inventory, or you might think of your strategy if there's a storm coming or things like the Qantas strike. You know that people were at the airport frantically looking for a place to stay on their mobile device, so you need to be there. If I haven't convinced you fully about mobile yet, this graph kind of says it all. A full 20% of the travel queries we get in the UK now on Google are via a mobile device. It includes tablets, but tablets is actually quite a small percentage of that. So they're really coming off those phones. And a note on tablets, kind of an exciting space. Who knows if they'll still be called mobile or not. I mean, they really need to be separated. But we find that tablet purchases, there's a higher conversion rate in general and a higher basket size or a larger basket size. It might just be the segment of customer that actually have a tablet at this point, but it's definitely an interesting area to look at. So moving on to the travel product updates. It's not a Google update that I'm doing. For one, there's so many changes all the time that, as was pointed out to me by Sticky Eyes, I don't even know all of them. But the one thing I would say is go to the Google blog. I just Googled Google blog, and it popped up. And they have all sorts of updates, different ad formats and these sorts of things. You can sort by product, all of that. What I was going to focus on today was two things. One is Hotel Finder, which came out, I think, in July of last year. And it's just US right now. You can only book in the US, although we recently added a lot of international hotel destinations. And so when thinking about Hotel Finder and Flight Search, which I'll get into, we sort of think about this cycle of the customer. And I touched on this last year, just updated the little pictures. People with white teeth enjoying technology. So at Google, first of all, we're not interested in booking or transacting on the Google site. So I'll be very clear about that. What we want to do is surface information for customers and then pass it on to an advertiser, hopefully, or an actual site link. What we found with travel is our one-size-fits-all approach didn't really work that well. You had things like pricing and availability, and it didn't seem to solve enough. So when you're thinking about kind of the stage of customer of dreaming and researching when they're not there yet, they haven't necessarily booked yet, but they're thinking about what's going on, that's where we try to solve the problem on Google. So the first approach with Hotel Finder was looking at how people interact and need hotel information. So the first thing you find with Hotel Finder is that it's a very clean interface, as you'd hopefully expect from a Google product. You can add in different criteria that you'd find on other engines or whatever, where you add your price range and your rating filters, etc. And it'll narrow down a list for you. And we also found that the way that people tend to book hotels or find a hotel is by kind of making this big master list and then narrowing it down. So, with tabbed browsing, you'd have a bunch of tabs open, and you'd start closing them off as you narrowed your selection. So we have shortlisting available, which in itself isn't this huge innovation, I think. But if you go and play with the tool itself, everything's really fast, really instant, and there's a good amount of information. So you can kind of shortlist. But I think the coolest innovation is something that we call the tourist spotlight. The idea here was that a person might not know where they want to stay in a city if they're new to that city. And so by using the volume of uploaded pictures that are geotagged, assuming that a lot of those pictures in high volume areas are from tourists, we can analyze where you might want to go or where there are interesting places to be in a city. So you see that in the kind of lighted area for Chicago in this example. And then we draw naturally a polygon around where we think probably you want to go. But you can click and drag this polygon, and as you do, as the shape shifts, based on the filter criteria that you've set, you'll see the little blue things pop up, and each of those represents a hotel, and each of those matches the criteria that you've input. And then perhaps slightly less technologically sexy, but very useful, is like this relative pricing idea. So if you see a hotel room for 200 pounds, it may be a 500-pound hotel room that's really nice. But it also might be that, you're next door to World Travel Market, and it's normally a 40-pound hotel room, and you don't want to be there at all. So and I don't know that that's the case, actually. But on the relative pricing, you can see that compared to the average price for this hotel room, is it above or below? And that could be one of your filter options as well, to say, I only want hotels that are generally priced more expensive, but I'm going to get a good deal on them. I encourage you to go, I think it's at google.com/hotelfinder, so you could search for it and find it. But play around with it and have a look. It's an interesting new product of ours. But even newer is the result of our partnership with ITA, and that's Google Flight Search, which I couldn't talk about last year. And again, because of no internet connection, I was going to show a live demo, and I decided I couldn't really talk through it adequately, so I've just kind of put up a 2-minute video for you to take a look. And I think the things to focus on here, one, it's a nice clean interface, and like other Google products, you can kind of expand it. So the idea is your grandmother could use it, or your most technologically savvy friend could use it, and there's kind of robustness in there for everyone. So the interface is nice. I like that it surfaces the pricing information really readily. So you'll see a bar chart on the side, and you can highlight date ranges for the destination you've chosen, and the pricing will update instantly, which is amazing. And then the final bit is just that instance, that speed, and you'll find the speed on the Hotel Finder as well. A bit of a side note on speed, Google looks increasingly now at landing page load times and things like this. The reason we do is from the data that we see, speed is everything. So just as when someone tries to play around with your desktop website on their mobile phone, or when they wait for your landing page to load, unless you're really a brand that they've decided they want to go with, that person will just click out and go somewhere else. So you really need to think about the user experience. So think about that, I guess, when you take a look at this. There we go.
Flight Search is a new feature of Google that helps you explore air travel options for many cities and plan your trip with just a few clicks of the mouse. Here's how it works. Simply type a flight-related search into Google. For example, flights from San Francisco to Minneapolis. On the results page, click on flights, and you'll go to your flight results page for that search. On this page, you'll see a list of convenient flight options. When you select one, you'll see exactly which return flights you can match with your outbound flight. Apply filters, like non-stop flights only, and your results will update instantly. If you have flexible travel options, Flight Search can include flights from nearby airports, like Oakland or San Jose for San Francisco, and shows you how prices change depending on the day. You can even click on the calendar icon to the right and surf around to see how the flight prices change depending on which days you travel. Drag dates around on the calendar, or use the bar chart to see which days for your trip will give you the best deal. Every once in a while, your travel planning starts by figuring out possible destinations based on time and budget. If you aren't sure where you want to go, just type in your departure city and surf around the map to see ticket prices for various destinations. Flight Search allows you to filter by price, airline, or flight duration. For example, see where you can go from San Francisco for less than $300 in under 3 hours. If you're ready to book your flight, just click on the booking link next to your results. Flight Search makes it easy to plan air travel with results that update instantly, a calendar that helps you quickly find low prices, and an interactive map that lets you explore destinations. So give it a try by searching on Google for the flights you're interested in, or visit google.com/flights. Bon voyage!
So I did make you sit through a 2-minute Google commercial. I apologize for that, but it's because there's no internet connection here. I would have done it live. That's about it for me, but a couple of things to point out here. One, the UK travel study that I mentioned that we did with Nielsen is available on the UK travel blog. If you type in Google UK travel blog, you'll find something that our team updates. Not too much. We don't want to inundate you, but when we have a new case study or a study like this, or our analysts, we have several analysts who do white papers, generally quarterly or so, to talk about, what will the impact of the Olympics be, or what will happen based on, the ash clouds and things like this. I encourage you to go up and check that out. And then again, there's a general Google blog that has really nice filtering, because there's so many updates you can't keep track of all of them probably, but you could filter by ads or by organic results or Webmaster Tools updates, things like that. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And we have some time for questions later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nate. I'll just do another switch of machine if you don't mind. There we are, all done in a flash. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome John Myers from Yahoo. Let's welcome him, ladies and gentlemen. And it looks like you might have a switch. It doesn't come up there, we can all gather around here, so don't worry.
Could be cozy.
Switch over, please. Uh-huh. It was there.
Got it?
Yeah.
Right. Good morning. I'm up last. Got a little bit of time. Obviously, lunch is pending and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to whiz through. My name's John Myers. I'm a director at Yahoo here in the UK. And I kind of wanted to, take you through some thoughts on products and things that you could be looking to utilize and use. I have no white teeth again, as Nate says, and Nate's kind of covered most of the numbers. So I wanted to give you an idea of things that you could do and products that you could use to take your businesses forward in the travel sector. It's going to be interesting, this, because I have no radio mic, and the laptop's over here and no clicker, so you're probably going to get a lot of me doing this. So I kind of want to kick off and talk a little bit about, obviously, Yahoo as a business and what we get up to. I mean, we get up to a multitude of different things. I'm going to focus on search today, but we do absolutely operate across the whole of the digital space. I mean, we touch everybody's lives in the digital world. This is the mantra of our product team, and it's kind of like the elements table. Search absolutely fundamentally fits into every one of those areas, from engage and delight, right through the social space and through into everything that sits within the digital ecosystem that stands today. So we absolutely touch all of those experiences, all of those scenarios, and companies and people that you will be dealing with on a day-to-day basis will be interacting with Yahoo, probably in ways that they didn't actually even realize they're interacting with Yahoo. But we like to think about it in a deeply personal digital way. I think it's safe to say, as this goes, search is absolutely in our genes. Obviously, there's a lot of talk constantly around Google, and absolutely in Google and the guys down there are doing a great job in the search market. But I think when you look back, and I mean, I just want to take you back in history a little bit. This is actually Yahoo's page in 1994. I mean, we probably came to the table in the search game early doors in some respects. I mean, Yahoo back then, as you can see, I mean, the owners were David and Jerry Yang, as they are today. It was all about trying to aggregate information and bring content to the table. It's very, very Blue Links orientated. So if we take a little trip through, we can understand that Yahoo evolved from a directory into an engine and to what it is today. I mean, obviously, search as it stands on a page is very, very similar if you look at either Google or you look at Yahoo or you look at Bing. Obviously, the metrics of a search page break down very, very simply into the core elements of, obviously, we have a Yahoo Search Exist box, which is, the same sort of conditions as what Google does when they suggest search. Through, obviously, the site filters, the related searches, we run a lot of rich content into the top end of the page as well. And I'm going to show you some examples of some ad formats later on that we're doing within the rich content side of things. And the organic results, I mean, we've just gone through a huge process with Bing to actually integrate Bing into 17 countries in Europe, powering Yahoo's organic search facilities. That happened earlier this year. Very pleased to say that the transition to the Bing algorithmic results has been very successful. And it brings to the Yahoo side of things the ability to bring more rich content from the Bing engine into the Yahoo organic pages, and allows us to format our search results on that side of the fence more and more, to tailor the result page for you guys to use and for obviously advertisers to take advantage of. And then obviously very similar to the Google process, we flow in the paid organic in the north and the east, organic in the middle, and then obviously some more sponsored search on the south rail, as we call it. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea. I mean, Yahoo is on a global level has a huge amount of users. I mean, we've just officially pushed through the 700 million barrier now. So ironically, I mean, a great stat that was thrown out to us as businesses, we had last week, obviously, the 7 billionth baby in the world, and we're powering 700 million users globally. So around about 10% of the global population actually use a Yahoo property on a day-to-day basis. So the scale and the reach is quite astounding across the globe, be you working in the European markets or APAC. When you look at that from a search perspective, and I've focused on Europe because I'm presuming that predominantly the audience today is from a European point of view, we still have around about 96 million users within what we call the EU5, which are the big European countries. And as you can say, they break down into, obviously, France and Germany and the core elements, as you would expect, as the big countries. And there's still a good, reasonable amount of search traffic available there for us. In the UK, we have around about 26 to 27 million users. And obviously, the challenge for us as a business is to make sure that level of people are retained within the Yahoo environment and using the search products. And I'm going to show you some of those now on a day-to-day basis, because obviously it's a balancing act between how we retain and how we get people using our products. And I'm going to skip through that. So some of the things that we're doing are rich ads and search, Favicons, official sites, and how we can integrate search and display, because obviously, I mean, we're talking about search today, but from a Yahoo perspective, we have a huge digital base on the display front as well. And we're finding more and more that search and display are coming together. I mean, I've been in search now, so around my 14th year within the search marketing game. And we always used to talk about search as a direct response mechanism, and it truly is. I mean, it's unlike any other from a direct response point of view. But more and more now we're seeing studies talking about search as a branding tool. So it's very, very interesting when you start to see people thinking about how can I use search and how can I use the search property to brand my company as well as drive amazing direct response conversions and ROI. And these are some of the things that came out of the study. Branding absolutely matters for search marketers. Search is a hugely brand awareness tool. So it's very, very interesting, certainly from, as I say, if you've been around as long as I have in this game, to hear these sorts of things. But it is absolutely true. More and more we start to think about how can we bring the branded metric to the search engine results page. One of the things that we're actually doing now is we're putting official marks or official sites on, or logos of companies, here's obviously an example for Virgin, into the search engine results pages, because we feel it's absolutely important that if it is your brand, you are recognized for your brand. We know that it's going to drive fundamentally probably your cheapest acquisition channel and ROI, and we all know that search historically has been a bit of a battleground on the branded terms, you could say, with obviously brand policing and trademark policies across all of the engines. We all obviously operate them in our own respective ways. But we see this as something that is hugely important to make sure that brands stand out on the page and earn the ROI from the brand that they've obviously paid for in the marketing sense. Another product which we've launched in the UK this year that's been particularly successful is something called Rich Ads in Search, and we've designed this to be very, very engaging. It sits again within the brand environment on the search engine page, but it's again looking at how you bring search and display together in some respects, and how you can take a rich media element and actually introduce that to a search engine page. So I wanted to show you a little example of that. Apologies, not a travel one, but we've seen success in all verticals for this product. We've seen certainly travel companies using it, car hire companies using it, hotelier companies using it. If you have video-based content and you can get that out into the digital space, this is something which will work very, very well for you, and I'll show you, I want to show you this particular example in the gambling sector because we case studied this one in particular. So if somebody does a search for 888 Poker, they get a search engine result like this. The lovely Shane Warne on there, the adopted Brit now. I would hope to have some sound, but it doesn't look like I have. But what it does is it effectively, obviously has sound, and it allows you to play, this is 888 Poker's TV commercial within the search engine results page. So giving you that huge branded expectation on the page, very short, very snappy, very punchy. We find that it allows you to actually introduce, as you can see at the top of the listing, an offer-based metric, deep site links into the different pages, and really sell from this particular spot. People say, can you improve ROI on brand? Because brand should be my best conversion. What we found with this is actually you absolutely can. I mean, in the context of the first run of this campaign, it was a 60-day campaign. Brand CTR increased by over 300%, and brand conversion increased by 83%. So actually showing how you can integrate a display metric into a search campaign on a rich media perspective, you can really actually drive more fundamental conversion out of a branded campaign even still. That's just a quick study, so we'll move on from that. From this perspective, I wanted to show you some of the things and some formats that you can make you start thinking about actually how can I integrate more with search. I mean, we listen and we talk about search probably on 3 levels on an ongoing daily basis of paid, SEO, and social, and the guys have obviously covered those today. But I think, you can start to think about how can I use formats, products, applications to really take advantage of that. We absolutely see at Yahoo that the search market is evolving. I showed you at the start what Yahoo was back in 1994, and it was about blue links. It was all about, I click on a blue link, I go to a page, I get more links to look at, I click through again, very like a directory based. Obviously search is now aggregated and evolved to blue links on search engine results pages, allowing you to get off the page fast and get to the client website, which obviously is, working very, very well, but it's thinking about how you can take that to the next level. And we want to try and find ways that we can push the information to you. So actually making the engagement higher, making you think about how the decision comes before you've even actually finished the search in some respects. So effectively getting the answers without requiring actually to interact with the traditional blue links in some respects. So, as I say, if you look at a query of yesteryear, it was literally query search engine results page and out. What we're now trying to think about is how you can do the query and then take into account the personal context of that person making the query. So search history, behavioral history, their social integration, the location that they sit within, as Nate talked about as well. You know, these are all metrics and things that we absolutely see as the new search, you know, the fundamentals, you know, how we look at it tomorrow. And this really allows you to really understand. And obviously at Yahoo we have a site that integrates into many, many verticals across sports, across travel, across finance. So a lot of vertical depth. So we're trying to find ways to bring all that content into that as well. And I'll show you how we're going about doing that. Things and areas which are innovating in Q4, obviously literally as we speak, are things around enriching the organic results. I mentioned we've done an integration with Bing, who are obviously going to be our partner going into 2012 in search. And we're bringing in lots of different things to do that. So we're bringing in better photos, we're bringing in more news content. We're driving through the video content and aggregating video content all into one place for you. And then overall we're bringing in that sort of social and Twitter and Facebook type community as well. So really trying to give you everything at your fingertips with one search. Other things that we're doing is we're looking across our properties and we're looking at news and different elements of news. So we know that we get a huge amount of followers that come in and read the news on a daily basis to Yahoo. Areas that we're looking to bring content to is the contextual links within the news content. So as businesses, you can start to take out the opportunities if, you know, from an organic and an SEO perspective, you optimize well and you submit the content well, you will start to see organic type results being pulled to the news to allow people to find other content. Again, in this example, there's image-based content, there's paid content. So really trying to bring the search into the everyday life of the Yahoo user and really see how we can actually give you everything you need at your fingertips and quick. We've just literally launched in the last few weeks as well an update to the image search facilities. Obviously, if you look at all of the search engines, we probably produce all the, you know, image search in a lot of respects. But what we've tried to do with ours is give you that image search, but on top of that, overlay and bring you the ability to sort all of the images in different ways to allow you to find things very, very quickly what you're looking for. Give you large format and high-res based imagery as well. Probably the nice little spin that we've put on this as well is that if you log into Yahoo with your Facebook login, we're now integrating, you know, pictures from Facebook as well. So any of your users or friends on Facebook that have taken pictures of what you search for, you will get those images dragged into the search facility as well. We're also integrating into that our Flickr side of things. So as obviously in travel, I mean, Flickr is, you know, a big adoption factor within the travel market, and we find that if you guys are uploading, you know, your video, you know, your Flickr content, your images of hotels, it might be resorts, and you're tagging it well, that will get integrated and dragged into image search as well. So lots going on in the image search space. Absolutely agree with Nate on mobile. I mean, we're seeing a huge adoption and a huge uplift there, and you know, believe as well where the tablet fits in that. We're seeing, you know, huge growth in that. You know, at the minute already we're seeing around about 8.2 million UK searches alone across that from July. I mean, the numbers are just staggering how they are jumping up, you know, from 5.9 to 8.2. There was a huge adoption in mobile when we talked about the year of mobile coming for 5 or 6 years, but I think we're finally arriving at a tipping point. Very, very important to integrate and think mobile because the future is only heading that route. And there's going to be a lot of growth within that space, a lot of new ad formats, a lot of things going on, not just in search, but also in display, that will really, really drive the mobile adoption forward. So, you know, really absolutely take that on board. One final little thing just to throw in there as well is where it's coming to the European market later this quarter. It's live in the US as well, so I highly recommend to go and play with it. It's particularly sticky. We've integrated an app search, so we're bringing in all of the apps that are available out there in the market, not just iPhone, there's Android in there as well, kind of thing. So we're bringing to the table all of the apps available, and you can effectively go and search for apps. You can cut apps in different ways, by ratings, by favorites, by different things. So if you guys happen to using apps in any way, and I strongly recommend you look at the apps market because it's hugely growing, and I know there's a big adoption within the travel sector. This is something which, you know, you can certainly submit apps to and get them uploaded into the search results pages as well. It allows you to sort them, as I say, by many different ways. And if you find the app you're interested in, click on the app. You can actually then send the app straight to your mobile phone and take that app home literally within 30 seconds actually before you search for it. So very, very quickly trying to find ways to integrate this all together. The final thing which is the answers not links scenario is something called Search Direct. And we've launched this in the US now, and it's now available on our search.yahoo.co yahoo.co.uk site in beta, this is trying to give you the answer before, obviously, you've finished your query. So taking it to the next level in the sense of the results engine pages. We're integrating not just search suggest, we're integrating across the Yahoo properties. So as you can see, if it's retail, it will suggest retail searches. And we're finding that's probably 6 times faster than what we've currently got. And we're certainly seeing it speeding up the marketplace as a whole in every way. It is real-time trending queries as well. So the data that we're pulling in there is constantly evolving. I'm just conscious of time as well. So just to give you a quick example of how that works, so somebody would be searching for something, they get suggested searches, they can integrate with the sport, they can integrate absolutely with travel, FT, finance, all the different sides of things. As you type, it starts to suggest things, so it's pulling in all of the content from the Yahoo properties and trying to understand, is it a location-based search, is it a hotel-based search, is it financial? So bringing in that content on a constant basis very, very quickly to allow you to have those results at your fingertips. So there's lots going on in search at Yahoo. Conscious I want to leave some time for Q&A. So that was a very quick whistle-stop tour. Thank you very much for listening in for that quick time, and I look forward to Q&A.
You'll be having to down the table. That's lovely. Oh, that's great.